I'm not touring as much as I used to, but boy, I really love it.
Hello world. Did you hear that? That's amazing.
You talk to the kids who are now adults, because I've been doing it a long time, and they remember when I came to their school.
You wanted a zillion, but I'm beady bada dee bada beady ba ba.
It's National Music in Our Schools Month, and our guest today is an absolute legend in the children's music industry. Hello and welcome to Tutris Talks. I'm your host, Jeff McAdam. Our guest today is a big one. He's a Grammy Award-winning artist. One of his songs has been called one of the top 5 children's recordings of all time. Even helped raise a music star as well. So if you're ready, let's get set. Let's rock.
Let's start off this concert with this song.
If you're feeling tired, our next guest is about to wake you up. He is just a big ball of energy, been making a huge difference in our schools for years now. Please welcome to the show, and it is my tremendous honor to have him, Red Grammer. Hey, Red.
Hey, Jeff. Nice to be with you.
Love your music. By the way, you do not need an invitation from me. If there's a guitar in the room, anywhere along the way, you just hush me up and you just start playing. I will be quiet.
Great.
People are very familiar with your work in the children's world. You know, children's music, very successful, but maybe not as many people realize you started actually in this direction.
Each day was a cup.
You were part of a group called the Limelighters, which is folk music, I believe, and successful. And somewhere along the way, you made a change, you made a pivot, and the rest is obviously history. Why the change? How the change? How'd that happen?
You know, it's not an uncommon story if you talk to folks that are in the children's music field. They have children, often, and you have kids. And my late wife, Kathy, and I were writing songs together in the adult genre, and I was thinking I was going to be a singer-songwriter, and we had a David and then Andy.
Please welcome Andy Grammer.
Oh, say, can you see?
And we just started making up songs around the house for them. And at one point, Kathy said, what if we made a little cassette of these songs? Maybe people would buy them at your adult gigs, thinking always of somehow to generate some more income. And it came out really, really well. And people said, wow, that feels more authentic from you than anything you've ever done. And then we did our second one, and actually that was the Teaching Peace album, which you referred to. The whole album was, was really celebrated, and that just opened up a whole possible pathway. And what was so interesting for me, Jeff, was that I'm kind of an earnest guy, but I'm also really silly, and it's a funny combination to be, kind of heartfelt and earnest, but also capable of a lot of silliness. And that's what children are. And they were my perfect audience. And adults, parents, teachers, when they are with children, also are more earnest and more silly. And so it was like, wow, these are my people. This is perfect.
Yeah, my dad used to always say, and I'm sure there's lots of dads that have said this, but find something that you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life, which feels a lot like kind of what you've stumbled into for your career, which is great. Obviously, music in our schools is an important thing. And you are very intentional with the music that you write. Do you think that people sometimes underestimate the value and the importance of what music can do for young minds?
Yes, I think so. And a lot of the music that kids consume on, cartoons and, video games, whatever, a lot of it isn't made to be rich and deep and positive, capable of a lot of, breadth. And so, you just say kids music to a lot of adults and they'll think The Wheels on the Bus, which is a great kids song, by the way, for early childhood, but But boy, you know, I've done this a long time, and I've done thousands of concerts in schools and performing arts centers, and everything. And you talk to the kids who are now adults, because I've been doing it a long time, and they remember when I came to their school, and they get nostalgic about the feeling they had at that concert. That was 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So yeah, it has an impact, and it's really wonderful.
I saw your tour date. You have, 3 or 4 your tour schedule. You have 3 or 4 dates coming up. What do you still get that excitement when you're walking into an auditorium, or is it different now?
Oh yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you don't get that excitement going, you need to you're forgetting something. So you have to remember, what it is you bring, and what it is you do for the kids, and what you bring to their environment. Music in the educational sphere is so important. I could just talk at length about it. There's all kinds of research about why it's important, and I can give you some of that stuff if you want to hear it. For me, it's the emotional connection piece that it affords kids, and they feel like they're their whole self in a school, which sometimes they don't.
Yeah, then we can dive into it, because it is, National Music in Our Schools Month, which is kind of the sort of the point of having this episode this month. And you have spent a lot of time in classroom educational spaces. How do you feel like, other than maybe emotionally, how do you feel like it shows up in kids' lives? Is it you think there's a difference in the way they learn? Do they, I don't know. Have you given that much thought to it?
Absolutely. I mean, I do a whole workshop for teachers on music is your best friend. Is a teacher's best friend. And, of course, I go down the research, language development, having music and music education as part of a school curriculum has been shown to really positively develop language development. And you can understand it from, there's all kinds of words that get delivered through music, and there's a context that's delivered through the music, that gives those words extra meaning and extra connection. And one of the things that's really powerful for an educator standpoint is what makes things sticky for a child learning. And one of the most powerful things is if there's an emotional connection to what they're learning, they never forget it. Okay? So a lot of people don't think about that when you think about curriculum. They don't think about the emotional connection, which is why a great teacher is all that emotional context that they're giving you. They're connecting with you. They see you. They are giving it relevance, all that stuff. But music does that as well. One of the things that's really interesting is in brain development, music and the arts, and the other arts as well, are one of the only things that works all 5 of these brain centers: sensory, attentional, cognitive, emotional, and motor. All 5 of those are being worked while kids are engaged in music. Most of the curriculum doesn't do that. Do all 5 at once. So that's very cool. There's stress reduction, there's increased feelings of social cohesion, emotional well-being, all of that. But as I said, I'm interested in the shining eyes.
Can you hear the sound of hearts beating all the world around?
And what I noticed years ago, when I was being brought into schools, oftentimes the teachers who brought me in were the ones who were excited about using art, right, in the classroom. So they have a big poetry thing, or they do a lot of visual art, or and often these were the teachers that were really into music. But what I noticed was I would visit other classrooms in the same building, and the ones where the art was a big deal, the kids' eyes were brighter. They do visually brighter, because every part of themselves was being exercised.
If my kids aren't listening at home, I just need to start singing it to them.
I I challenge teachers in workshops. I say, just try singing instead of speaking for a minute. And some of them are brave enough to do it. Today we're going to look at how the ecosystem is affected by, the lack of water or the abundance of water, and everybody's going to say, what is she doing, Anyway.
I think you're right, and I think you're onto something. Like, not onto something. You've known this for years, but I remember I can even recite the word for word the songs from my fourth grade, third grade, second grade, musicals. These things stick in our brains easier that way. So as you're talking, the light bulb's kind of going off in my head. I want to shift gears just a little bit here into a special moment in your life and your work. I stumbled on a YouTube video here earlier this week. Years ago, you wrote a song called Harmony with the lyric, I got a little boy that comes up to my knee.
He loves nothing better than to sing me. One of these days he'll look me in the eye, saying, you take the low part and I'll take the high.
Fast forward a few decades later, and one of those little boys has grown into a multi-platinum recording artist, and the two of you are now standing on stage together, singing that very song.
Yes.
When you think about writing those words as a young dad and then living them out years later on stage with your own grown son, what did that moment mean to you?
It's just a reflection of how music and songwriting was just so much a part of our home. And so they grew up with that, both Dave and Andy. Actually, so singing that song with Andy on stage with his band, I can't say enough. Of course, I'm a proud dad, not just for his success, but for the quality of the work that he does. And I'm just so proud of it. Yeah.
I'm not going down that easily, so don't give up on me. And I won't.
And so, it was just nothing better than that kind of stuff.
I showed it to my wife. We had the goosebumps because so much of what you do, Red, is in inspiring children. And what is more authentic and what is more proof is in the pudding than to see your own children. And to that point, you are hyper positive. I've gone through your YouTube playlist. Yeah, I mean, it is fun to listen to you sing and the message that you deliver. I think when they see Andy's music too, that is also something that resonates through his music. And on a somewhat of a personal note, I had been going through a health issue a couple years ago where I had to be sitting and getting treatments for weeks on end, and they said you're allowed to put on an album. We'll play it on the speakers. What do you want? And I said, give me that Andy Grammer. I need positivity. I think that positivity. I think you help maybe lay that foundation. I'm not giving you the full credit. I know you'd never take it.
Yeah.
But the impact, I guess you see all the people that get that positivity through his work as well. And I imagine, first of all, yeah, you must be pretty proud of that. And two, do you feel like that is kind of the foundation that you wanted to install from the get-go?
Look, every creative artist has their own wellspring, but he was raised in it is a good place for somebody of his, he has always trusted the universe to be there for him. And part of that probably was, that he was raised in a family that was just perfect for his, creative development.
When the dreams you're dreaming come true, when the work you put in is realized, let yourself feel the pride, but always stay humble and kind.
Just, really cool dynamic that you guys have as a family in the music industry. But I wanted to get back to music in the schools just a little bit more. Not only are you playing, but you're also, you're delivering messages to these kids as well.
When I talk to them about the power of music, I say to them, kids are watching us. Sure, they're learning the math and they're learning language arts and they're learning history and stuff. But probably one of the most important things they're looking at is they're saying, what does it mean to be an adult? And if what they're seeing is kind of a dried husk of previous excitement and, you know, optimism, but something is kind of worn down and everything now, they're not going to want to be that. And I would say this to parents. Whatever creative light that you have in you, share that with your kids. Don't be afraid. You know, you may not have played the guitar in 15 years since you were in, you know, whatever, or 10 years or 5 years since you were in high school or college or whatever. Get it out and play with them. They need to see an example of what a full life looks like. And I say that to teachers. I say, look, I don't care what your creative thing is. If it's baking cool cakes, bring those in. If it's quilting, bring that in. If it's flower arrangement, you should see the flower arrangements that my wife Jan makes. They're astonishing. I mean, the joy it brings me to see. Anyway, whatever it is that you have that has that piece for you, teachers, parents, whatever, kids need to see us alive and full of vitality and eagerness to embrace the day.
Sawing and hammering is just so much fun when I put things together. I get to see what I've done. I like to build stuff. It's just the way I am.
And we're not going to be perfect. You know, I'm not expecting everybody to do that all the time. I don't do it all the time. But make time for yourself to honor that piece of you so that you can honor it in your children. They will learn how to be a whole human being by watching you be a whole human being.
Listen, on that note, so I bought a ukulele.
Okay.
I might
Good.
no, okay, but this is called Tutris Talks, not Tutris Plays. I've learned somewhere over the rainbow, like the basic, you know, rendition of it.
Good.
But I'm walking around the house because I got a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old, and like I'm wanting them, right? I'm wanting to get them into music. And
Yes.
and I can see there's the interest there. And we have a keyboard, and they'll sit there for like 3 minutes and then they're done. They're walking away. So for the parents that are out there listening, you know, I know we got parents from 12 and under. How do you get kids really, what's the key?
First of all, just to give you some background, I was raised by my mom. My mom and dad divorced when I was born. So I wasn't around my dad at all. He was a singer. Not, you know, didn't have a big career or anything, but, you know, he was a singer. He took the piano when he left, understandably. My mom was tone deaf. She didn't even recognize what an amazing voice I had. People would tell her, gosh, he sings so great. You know, I was in church choir and they'd come up after the things. Your son sings like an angel, you know, whatever. And she'd say, oh, really? Here's the thing. So it came out of me. It started to show up like in 4th and 5th grade for me. And she would do whatever, you know, when I got the drum set, she drove me to the gigs, you know, before I had my license. And she drove me up to Northern Jersey to buy my first guitar. You know, she didn't know anything about any of it, you know. So part of it is look for what excites them. Now, my mother was also a visual artist. She was a painter. She didn't do enough of that, as she probably would have been great to see. But she sort of sacrificed all that as a single parent, you know. But the most important thing is to watch for what excites your child. Because if piano doesn't excite your child, then it will be a chore for them. Now, understandably, you know, I think every kid should be exposed to music and given the opportunity to do music. It's a really important thing for everybody. But I would go back and I would say to you, Jeff, you know, I don't know, did you ever play the ukulele or is you picking it up now?
I grew up playing saxophone in middle school, and then I also had a class in middle school first semester where you alternate between acoustic guitar and keyboard for a semester.
Okay, so you have played some of them, yeah. So, you know, I would just say it's a twofold thing. Honoring and encouraging the natural gifts that your children have showing them how you do that for yourself in whatever your thing is, and it may be totally different. You may, do little miniatures, paint little, I don't know. I'm just making something up. It
Sure.
could be anything.
Whatever you're passionate about.
Show your passion to them, encourage their passion, let your house be somewhere where passion has a space, and then, and I would say, yes, absolutely. I think, as I said, music should be part of the curriculum of every elementary school. Unfortunately, it's not in a lot of parts of the country, but music is a really powerful thing for kids to learn, even if it's not going to be something that they're going to be a virtuoso at. By the way, there's very cool digital, like wind instruments now.
Oh. What do you
Yeah,
what do you mean?
you blow into it like a saxophone, but you can make it sound like a harp or a banjo, anything. It's like insane. I have a neighbor who he was talking to me about it. He said, I used to play saxophone in high school, and he's retired now, just retired, and he's playing this wind instrument. He said, and you can play along with tracks and stuff. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah. What do you make of this whole AI stuff? Does that make music? Does it just open up a whole other dimension? Or is it Kermit?
yeah, that's a whole other topic, which is very interesting. And while there are both ethical considerations, and it's extremely exciting for me, who, I'm not a great producer. I have a producer I use to make my recordings. He has an encyclopedic knowledge of production styles and everything. But I'm using a program right now when I write a song to just have it make up arrangements for me, and in all different kinds of styles. And I have no intention of using them on a recording. But boy, is it educational for me and exciting and fun. Andy is doing the same thing. Not for a finished recording, but to play.
So tell me, maybe you could tell me from your own experience, if I'm a victim of only having a piano and a ukulele. What's the right way to see what my kids are into? Do you take them to a music store, let them walk around and try the drums, try the violin? Like, because
Now remind me how old they are.
so they're 5 and 4. Maybe that's a good thing to point
5
out.
and
So,
4.
yeah.
Well, that's I don't know if the elementary school or the school, whatever that the 5-year-old goes to, has music as part of its curriculum.
At least not yet. Not in this grade.
Not in this grade.
Yeah.
I would say take them to various kids concerts. Sometimes the symphony will have a kids thing where they introduce the instruments of the orchestra, or just to festivals where they can see. I think it's really important for kids to be able to see things and say, I could do that. I remember Andy, we were on a summer singing thing that I was part of, and there were other people doing performances. And there was a guy doing a single kind of, what do you call it, one-man show. And he didn't sing really. It was an acting piece. But Andy thought it was so cool. And he said to me afterwards, I could do something like that. It just opened up his window a little bit. And so I would just, without making a big deal of it, just take your kids to, look, it's not something you're going to do every weekend, but, if you have the means, take them to different things and let them experience different kinds of performances. And maybe they'll visualize it. Oh, I would love to play piano like that.
How about you, Red? You're going back. I see you have tour dates, if we want to call them, where you're going to be. You're even, I think, at a childcare related conference coming up in a couple months.
Yes.
What drives you now?
Oh man, there's a lot of things going on. We're on the docket for a kids show. It's in development with PBS. on environmental education with music, and it's animated. It'll be really fun. So that's huge. But I'm not touring as much as I used to, but boy, I really love it. And I was just laying down, just sort of meditating today on, because I leave tomorrow for Northern California for a couple of dates, and then I come home, and then I bet, and I'm just reminding myself it's the light in the kids' eyes that they see somebody who's alive and happy and interested, and they are attracted to that. And then, it's real participatory, so we share this time together, and there's really nothing like that kind of connection for me as an artist. Yeah.
I would imagine some of the light in the eyes as kids kind of discovering for the first time. I like that. Or I like the way he does that. I'm sure you get all sorts of age ranges, whether they're 4 or they're 10. And I imagine maybe the look doesn't change. It's the same.
For me, the music that I've created, I've always wanted to create music. It isn't about telling kids how we want them to be. It's about celebrating the way we are. We just are kind. It's just who we are, and it's fun, and to just that there's to create a space, and really good teachers do this too. Create a space where it's just how we are here. This is who we are, and to create that space and have kids relax and get excited at the same time. They feel safe. They feel like they can be who they are. That's what I want to create those environments. I know my peers, other, there's some really wonderful children's performers, family music performers that are coming up from all different cultures and backgrounds now. It's hugely diverse. And that's all what we're all about. It's creating a safe, encouraging, this is how we are.
Yeah.
And it's just fun. So you asked me to do a song. Can I do one?
Please. Yes.
I'm not gonna, it's no guitar.
Okay.
This is just something that that came out years ago. I was touring around, and I ended up in a library one afternoon. I was looking at the atlas. I'm a map guy. I love maps. And I'm finding all these places in the world that rhymed, even though they were from different parts of the world. And this is the song that came out. These are places in the world. Some you know, some you don't. Some you'll visit, and some you won't. Some are near, and some are far. Some sound exotic, like Zanzibar, because these are places in the world. Bombay, Cape May, Mandalay, Baffin Bay, Baghdad, Leningrad, Ashgabat, Trinidad, LA, Norway, Paraguay, Monterey, Singapore, Ecuador, Bangalore, Baltimore. These are places in the world. Fiji, Sicily, Nagasaki, Tennessee, Cairo, Quito, Borneo, Idaho, Taiwan, Dijon, Saigon, Tehran, Guatemala, Oklahoma, Argentina, North Dakota. These are places in the world. Some are new and some are old. Some are hot and some are cold. Some are low and some are high. Some are wet and some are dry. Because these are places in the world. Glasgow, Oslo, Fresno, Tsinkayo, Falkland, Auckland, Yucatan, Disneyland, Libya, Namibia, Romania, Pennsylvania, Bora Bora, Walla Walla, Costa Rica, Bratislava. These are places in the world. High on a mountain, down on the plain, deep in the jungle, in the middle of the rain. Children laugh and children play, everywhere, every day. Because these are places in the world.
I love it. Amazing. Red, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for playing that. That's great. I love the energy you bring to it. I'm saving your YouTube channel. It'll be on my playlist. And thank you so much for joining us today, Red. Appreciate it.
It was a delight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tuntress Talks. Love it.